So what does the Swift empty message structure looks like? So on the screen, the diagram below is an example of the basic format of the message. Normally, if you're using a back office to generate your payments, the system would normally include the header tags and the trailer within the message, and the text block, which is the body of the message. Normally, that will be normally input by the operator. So normally, you won't have to add these header details and the trailer when generating the message, but just for clarity and to allow us to understand the content of the message. So if we start with the header, the block 1 is usually the sending applications or sending banks BIC address. The application header 2 normally would have the receiver bank BIC address. The user header block 3 normally would have, this is where you would have the equivalent of the cog use code on there. So for chaps clearing, that would have STG on there. So obviously that would signify the use of the specific cog service to process that payment message or that message. And then the block 4 is the body of the message. So this will contain all the fields that is equivalent or that will help to generate a transaction specific to this message. So this is where things like the value date, the payment details, the amount, the address, the customer details, the sending customer, originating customer, receiving customer, the settlement details, the address, this type of information will be captured within the text block in this diagram. And then we have the bottom, which is the trailer, block 5. That would have the trailer details on there as well. So this is a typical format of an empty message. Swift empty sample message with specification. On the left hand side is the actual empty message, and on the right hand side is the specification for that message type. As it is an MT103, we have the spec, which is the different fields and their format specific to that message. So if you can see, the M within the specification on the right hand side means mandatory fields. The O is the optional fields. And you can see, for example, tag 20 is a sender's reference that contains 16 characters. So Swift has their own list of characters that is allowed by the system. So another example is the tag 33B in the spec on the right hand side, which is the currency and instructed amount. If you look at the content options for that is free, the 3 exclamation mark A. That means it starts with a 3 code, alphanumeric code. Then the 15D means 15 numeric, or followed by a decimal number. So as you can see, obviously when constructing the message, you have to ensure that you use all the mandatory fields as it's shown on the left hand side, and the optional fields, obviously it's dependent on the content of the message or the data that is required for that message to enable a specific transaction, or the information that will be carried across to the sender bank or to receiving bank, pardon me. So here's a typical example of a Swift empty message. So if you go back to the message on the left, you can see the specific fields from field 20 up until field 72. You can see the header tags, the field 1, block 1, block 2, block 3. Remember I said the block 3 will contain the code for the cog that is used to process that message. So in this instance, is a business code called STG, which stands for the CHAPS clearing system here in the UK. So such payments will go through the CHAPS channel, and this code specified here obviously would enable the routing of this message to the right through the right channel within the Swift network, and obviously such message would be processed as a CHAPS payment. And then you could see other details within the message itself, such as the amount, the date, the account details. Obviously, these are just message test data. They're not real accounts. It's just to show you what a typical MT message would look like. And normally, such message, when they're being created from the back office application, you'd have specific forms that you just normally or manually fill with all these different data, and that data would now generate a Swift MT message in a similar format that is then sent out to the receiving bank via Swift. So I hope this helps, and I hope this gives an idea of what a Swift MT message looks like. A typical MX message structure. So as you can see, the business message for the MX message structure consists of the ISO 20022 business application header and the ISO 20022 message. So the business application header would have the details of the sender and receiving systems or institutions, and then the document will have the business data of the message itself. Swift MX message sample. On the left is an example of an MX message, ISO 2022. Remember, as in XML format. So here is an example of what the document section of an MX message would look like. So to the right of that is the equivalent of the specification for that message. So this message in particular is a PAX 008 message, so which is an equivalent of a customer transfer MT103 message. So as you can see, with the MX, as it's an XML based message, you can see the structure of the message, then opening and closing tags in XML format, and then you can see the specific fields and elements within that message. So for a good example, you could see the instructing agent, which also has an equivalent of the opening and closing tags on there, then followed by the financial institution ID block, and then followed by the big FI, which is the big of the instructing agent. So that's the big details in there. Because this is just an example, so we're not using real bigs on there. They're just test bigs, or that just has been changed and altered just for this video, so they're not real bigs on there. But this is a good example of what an MX message does look like. And then to the right is the specification. So because with the MX message, the library is quite big, so I've just taken a screenshot of some bits just to show you an example of some elements of an MX message. Is also known as a schema. So schema is basically the format for an MX message. So you can see with the equivalent schema or elements for instructing agent XML tag, you can see you have the different fields on there with their XML tag, and then you have what is known as a relationship, which is the mult column, and then you have the child elements within that parent field. So we have, so there's with XML, there's always an association, a relationship. You have the parent and you have the child. So a good example from the MX or XML tag on the left hand side. So if we look into the tag instructing agent, so that is actually a parent, and then within the instructing agent you have the block financial institution ID, so that would be the child for instructing agent. So that's the association and relationship. And then if you want to link that to the specification on the right hand side, we have the instructing agent, then within that we have the financial institution. You can see the XML tag matches with the tag on the message. Then we also have within the financial institution, if you look at the second column below, sorry, second table below. So for a financial institution, you could have a child, which consists of these other elements: BKFI, clearing system member ID, LEI. So you can see the way our message is, we have the financial institution, then followed by the big FI element. And then when you look at the usage guideline, M actually means there's a mandatory element in this block. And then the circle with the strike in it does mean that these other elements have been removed for that tag. So this is just a good example of what an XML message does look like. Okay.